tourism, the backbone of Fraser Coast, where we say a lot of them because healthcare and tourism, what drives Fraser Coast here.
And this is the message I really think that we need to be pushing more and more, is our uniqueness here in Hervey Bay, and that it is 100% worth the wait, worth the drive to get here, worth the time, worth paying an extra $20 per person, because those experiences you get out on the bay are priceless.
Is it very expensive to be a marine tour operator?
Oh, yeah. I mean, where do we start with that? Boom, boom, boom.
So does the council in a way help small businesses or operators like you in a way of like a grant or anything that kind of?
Yeah, sure. Well, the council can supply grants. It's generally for businesses.
So what's your average cruise time?
The mornings, it's about 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours. Depends on which cruise you're on.
Tell us one of the funniest guest experience that you had on the cruise.
Funniest or fun? So I feel like funniest is sort of laughing at them a little bit, but
is there a lot of red tape when it comes to to get into anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah, there's a lot of red tape. A lot of red tape.
Okay, describe in 3 words your cruise.
Our cruises. Whalesong Cruises. It's joyful. It's educational. And life-affirming. Best job in the world! That's what they say. You've got the best job in the world.
Hey guys, welcome to Studio 9, another episode of our Studio 9 here today. Tourism, the backbone of Fraser Coast, where we say a lot of them because healthcare and tourism, what drives Fraser Coast here. And our guest today is one of a very profound tourism operator right here in Fraser Coast, running the Whalesong Cruise, Bec. Also, she is the Vice President for Chambers of Commerce. So let me welcome our today's guest. Bec, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Nisha. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And I think we had a really good conversation behind the scene before we starting the podcast about a lot of things that's happening in your industry. And we're really excited to share that story to our audience, what's going to happen. Tell us about the Whalesong Cruise, how it all started.
Great question. So Whalesong Cruise has actually started about 30 years ago now. My husband and I bought it just over 7 years ago. So it was an established business that had been around obviously for a while in Hervey Bay. We just moved into the region, didn't know what we were going to do when we moved here, and found this whale watching business for sale. Didn't have any experience in marine tourism and just decided to go for it.
So where exactly are you from, Bec?
So I'm from New Zealand originally, the lower part of the North Island, Palmerston North, but I've lived out of New Zealand longer than I've lived in it. It's the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. So I had a stint here many years ago, in Sydney, moved over for the Olympics. Doug and I ended up going travelling separately in South America, and we ended up getting together in South America. Long story short, we ended up living in Ecuador for 10 years and we built a little eco lodge over there. Tried to move back to New Zealand, It was too cold, and that's why we moved here. So I'm cutting a very long story short.
I think, and that's the great. I think, as I mentioned to you, I think a lot of people from different parts of the world have made Hervey Bay as their home, and done exceptionally well. And I think, and that's why we're so happy to bring you on the podcast, because that's the story that we really want to share, and it's great to see that you're doing phenomenally well. You're the VP for Chambers, the whole lot going on for you. And I think as an industry also, I think the tourism industry, unless you're really on it, you can really get far behind with a lot of things,
Absolutely. And a lot of people can get complacent in their businesses and what they do in life in general, really, if they aren't looking for self-improvement all the time, or looking to be the best they can or offer the best they can. I mean, we could be complacent. We've done pretty well in the last few years, and we could be resting on our laurels, but no, we'll still be developing more and more. Last year we actually gained our accessibility accreditation, and we're the only operator in the Fraser Coast to have that, and one of the only marine tourism operators in all of Australia to have that. So that just means that we are very welcoming for people of all abilities, and we can facilitate their needs as well. So not just physical disability, but also people with neurodiversity.
So currently you're the only operator in the region that has
accreditation, for that.
Oh, that's so new to everybody. Probably if you're watching, well, there you go. So, and that's what we learn in this podcast. There's so many different things that we would have even not known.
Yeah, that's right. And we didn't have to do that either. It's not necessarily something that's going to grow our business a lot more, but it's just something that we wanted to do. Instead of adding another boat to our business, which we don't want to do, we just grow what we've currently got and refine it.
What do you think, as a tourism business operator for Fraser Coast, how things are going?
That's a good question.
Oh, we don't want to get into controversy here, yes. But you can just brush it out from the top.
No, not at all. Look, we are very blessed with a beautiful backyard, and that's what brought us here in the first place nearly 8 years ago. It was the weather. Hasn't been great lately, but in general it's pretty good, and also just what we've got, our natural assets, so there's so much there we can be building on. We have a lot of great tourism product already. It would be really great to have a few more different options. I think having the diversity in a region will really help bring other people into the region when they can see that there are so many different things they can do.
So what is the biggest challenges when it comes to running, especially a tour operator for a cruise?
Yeah, marine tourism. Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, I must say. Has a lot of moving parts, as you can probably imagine. Not just the business itself, but the actual boat. And anything that can go wrong will. Thankfully, my husband, who is the lead skipper and head engineer, actually he's the only engineer on our boat, he won't let anyone else touch our engines, but he knows them very well, requires a lot of maintenance, like the business as well. The boat requires a lot of maintenance to make sure everything is running smoothly. Marine tourism though, because we're in a marine park, we're quite regulated there with Queensland Parks and Wildlife Services, which has its pros and cons, let's just say that. Yeah. But it's very difficult for new operators to enter the market without a lot of red and green tape.
Yeah, so I think that was my next question. Is there a lot of red tape when it comes to to get into anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah, there's a lot of red tape. A lot of red tape.
Does it make very difficult for small operators like you?
Look, as an existing established operator, it's not as difficult, but if you were trying to enter the industry as a new operator, getting new permits, and just finding a market to do what you want to do, it can take some time. So I think unless you're really willing to operate at a bit of a loss for a couple of years, it's probably not for everyone, and ready to really push what you need in terms of getting permits for things, for operating, then yeah, I wouldn't be recommending it to people as a new operator, that's for sure.
So What is your busiest period when it comes to operating a cruise?
The busiest period by far is whale watching, and that's mid-July to mid-October. We run 2 daily cruises, and we're running 7 days a week. So
it runs 7 days.
it runs 7 days. So basically, for about 120 days, it's running 2 days, 2 times a day, every day. So you can imagine by the end of it, we're just like, and then we take a bit of a break, and then we get into our summer season, and we go over to the west coast of Gari, Fraser Island. Beautiful, beautiful beach we head to over there, do some kayaking and snorkeling, inflatable tube rides, a few beach activities. That's really busy in the summer school holidays, most weekends as well, and also the Easter holidays. So we've just wrapped up with that for the season, taking a bit of a break before whale season comes around. So we take the boat out of the water, get it all ready.
Get full geared up for the whale, pretty much. And how long does that last? Is that 3 months, 4 months, or?
Whale watching, yeah, about 3.5 months, yeah.
So Hervey Bay is very much popular for whales.
That's right.
You know, so had you seen the numbers of whale watches, or the peak period for whale watch season has gone up or gone down, or what is your last 5 years, or let's say 3 years?
Yeah, so we're not really representative of the region personally, but I do have region stats as well. But we've seen growth every year, which has been great. Since COVID was actually a really, I thought it was going to be a really tough time for us, but it gave us great time to reflect on our business and what we were going to do, and I think that helped us pivot what we were doing. Pivot. I can't believe I brought that word into it. We were all over that word after COVID, weren't we? And we've just seen the business grow year after year. But whale watching, unfortunately, last year we had around 50,000 passengers, and that's been one of the worst years in the last 10 years. But in its peak time in the mid-90s, we were getting, this is before our time, we were getting over 90,000 visitors a year.
Wow.
Going whale watching, and now we're nearly half of that. So that's had a profound impact on the industry. Whale watching in Hervey Bay is second to none, though. If you think about the experiences that you're having here and the encounters you're having with the whales here, so different from anywhere else. But the problem was back then, at Hervey Bay was the only place you could go whale watching. And then basically the government deregulated and said, well, go for it everywhere else. So our competition is not necessarily our industry here, it's actually other regions and other locations.
So who's taking the big chunk of the pie?
Most of it is probably Gold Coast and Sydney. They have their whale watching operations up and down the east coast. The thing is with big places like Sydney and the Gold Coast is that they have such a diversity of tourism product as well. So people aren't necessarily going there for whale watching, they're going there for something else, and then they'll tag on a whale watch while they're at it.
Oh, okay.
So they're not waiting to get here. And this is the message I really think that we need to be pushing more and more, is our uniqueness here in Hervey Bay, and that it is 100% worth the wait, worth the drive to get here, worth the time, worth paying an extra $20 per person, because those experiences you get out on the bay are priceless.
Okay. So, the whole whale thing, would they start from somewhere and go back? So where do we sit in that cycle? Are we in the middle? Are we at the end? Or are we at the beginning of the whale?
Sort of halfway through. So they come from Antarctica, and then they head up to around the Whitsundays and into the Great Barrier Reef. That's where the mums give birth to the calves, and then they come back down into the bay. But at the start of the season, we get the younger ones that are migrating, and they're our sub-adults, and we liken them to teenagers because they can be elusive or they can be really show-offy. So you just don't know what you're going to get on the day. And I have a teenager and I know what it's all about. Sorry, John, if you're watching this, I do love you with all my heart. Firstborn child. But about a month or so after they have come into the bay, that's when we get the mums and calves coming back down.
Yeah.
So we are, I guess we're probably about 3/4, if not 4/5 of the way up from their migration from Antarctica. They go 10,000 kilometres in their migration, so it's a long way, poor things.
Yeah.
And here we know Hervey Bay is a really important feeding place, especially for the calves. It's the only stop they make on the migration south. So newborn calves are born with no blubber, basically. So they come in here, they feed up from mum, so they can head straight back down to Antarctica. Yeah. So another main point of difference here is the fact that they're resting in the bay. They're not migrating like they do everywhere up and down the east coast.
Oh, okay.
So we see different behaviours, and the numbers of whales as well is just increasing year after year.
Oh, so you see more and more whales?
Absolutely. We're seeing more whales but less people on our boats, fewer people on our boats. So, but the whales, there's definitely no problem with numbers there.
You think is lesser people is because there's less awareness of what the product is we have here in the bay?
Yes, I do. And I think we as an industry, and even our regional tourist organisation, which is called Fraser Coast Tourism and Events, which is mostly funded by the council here, not fully but mostly funded by the council, there are some things we need to be doing to really push that message again, because we shouldn't be seeing the downturn in numbers like we have done.
Yeah. Is it, do you think, because there's a lot of people, because it's cheaper to travel overseas now and then locally it's getting expensive, is it one of the reasons?
There's that too, yeah, there's that too. Mm-hmm. So we do predominantly have a domestic market here. I mean, we at Whalesong as well do a lot with our international partners. Predominantly though, we're a self-drive domestic market. Having said that, with these new airline routes that have opened up, we're seeing a lot more fly in, fly out. So definitely a different demographic of traveller, and they're usually a bit of a higher yield, a higher spend, rather than, your caravanners or backpackers, so they're spreading the money around a lot more, and they go out into other businesses around as well, your restaurants and little gift shops, and everyone benefits from.
That's right. I think that's what we also seen in real estate and things like that there's more, and I think there are people with money has coming into the market, like they can spend now they're coming from New South Wales or Victoria and things like that, and that's why you can see people can afford a good $60 steak or $50 steak now, because that market of demographic of people are changing with the money. So probably extra $20 on a tour people can afford, but they want just great service, a great product. Yeah. How much of the tourism is part of Fraser Coast business? Is it like 30% of Fraser Coast business, or like?
No, it's nowhere near it. Actually, last week when I was down in Brisbane for the tourism trade show, I missed the Chamber of Commerce breakfast that was here last Wednesday, but we had Jared Carline from the council. He's the acting CEO of the council. He did a bit of a presentation. I was surprised by the stats, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but tourism wasn't even mentioned. It's manufacturing, I guess the council, they have a lot of workers as well. But manufacturing was the big one here. Tourism didn't even rate a mention. But there are a lot of hospitality products around the region that rely on tourism. So even though their figures may just be looking at tourism operators and what money they're bringing in, it's those flow-on effects that go out into other businesses that they're probably not quantifying. So really the overall impact of tourism is a lot larger than just what the individual operators are bringing in.
Yeah. Is it very expensive to be a marine tour operator?
Oh, yeah. I mean, where do we start with that? Boom, boom, boom. Look, we do have a minimum number that we will go out with, and that's past our break-even point. But that's just because I mean, yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive.
It's expensive as an owner to operate and keep running because
that's right.
you got a boat, you got a staff,
You've got insurances, you have fuel, we supply all food on board, so we're the only half-day tourism operator that includes meals on our cruises. So that, yeah, we're basically the same price as everyone else. So that obviously adds another cost when you're including a full lunch or dinner on your cruise. Yeah, just keep your compliance costs. You've got every sort of form of government wanting something from you as well. So yeah, just to get up and into the boat and turn that key on in the morning, it takes a lot of money for that to happen. Yeah.
So does the council in a way help small businesses or operators like you in a way of like a grant or anything that comes up saying, hey guys, we got something for you guys here to bring more people in, drive for marketing and things like that? Or
yeah, sure. Well, the council can supply, they do supply grants. It's generally for businesses though, not just tourism businesses. So, but we're obviously eligible to apply for those. But their funding goes into Fraser Coast Tourism and Events, and they're our peak marketing body for our region. So they're the ones that work with Tourism and Events Queensland and Tourism Australia if we need to be doing any collaborations or anything with them. But they are the ones solely responsible for the marketing of our region to bring people out of the region in, whereas council look after local people.
Okay. Yeah. So that particular body is their responsibility to make sure get more tourism people, awareness, and all those trade shows and all that. That's it. 100%. That's what pretty much they're doing too. Okay. Is it really, really hard to be ecotourism into the play? Or is it mandatory that you have to be compliant with a lot of things when you take the boat into the water, making sure?
Yes. So, yes, it's mandatory, but also it's just a given, really, for tourism, I think, in general. You know, we want to be out there. We're working in nature. We want to preserve and conserve our nature. There's no benefit for us to destroy it. If we destroy it, we don't have a business. So we're probably the other side of it and maybe too focused on that side of things. Not that our guests see it, but a lot happens behind the scenes with that. So, but we do have advanced ecotourism certification, and we need to have some form of eco certification for our whale watch permits, because we're actually the only, and again, comes back to us compared to the rest of the East Coast. We're the only ones on the East Coast that operate in a marine park, so we're the only operators that are permitted. So anywhere else, if you want to set up a boat in Sydney or the Gold Coast and go out whale watching, off you go.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So anyone can do it. You got a free pass, get a boat on, and you can be a tour operator, pretty much.
Here, it's a lot more restricted.
In Fraser Coast?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So because we're operating in that marine park. But part of that permit, we're required to have the ecotourism certification for that. Yeah.
Which kinds of benefits helps you guys, the restrictions in place, so that no one just nilly-willy just come and take a boat and be an operator, you know? It has pros and cons, as you mentioned. So.
Yes, it does have pros and cons. The thing is, we pay about $7,000 a year just for that permit, and it's not like that money actually goes towards looking after our region, our industry. It just goes into the general coffers of Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service, and we don't see it. So, you know, we would love to have people at the boat ramp educating people on how they should drive their boats around whales. Or jet skis, you know, you often see them just hooning up to the whales, and you know they could be in front of our boat playing around. As soon as a jet ski comes, boom, they're off. Yeah. So, yeah, not just the tourism experience, but also for the welfare of the whale, because that's obviously affected their behaviour, the whale's behaviour, and we're trying to have as minimal impact as possible on their behaviour. But with all these reccees, we call them, coming up and wrecking the place, then that poses a bit of a problem. But in terms of having limited numbers of operators here, yeah, it's a good question. I think, like, if you were just a complete open free market and you didn't have to have a permit, I don't think we would see much change at all, to be honest.
Oh, is it?
I don't think so. Just because, well, the barriers to entry into the market, which are mostly cost, because you've got to buy a boat, it's got to be in survey and it's got to be of a good quality. It's not a cheap thing to do. And then, like I said, fuel, insurance, everything else, your marketing, everything, to actually run it, to set up a new business, you probably would be operating at a loss for a few years until you could get into the black.
And I think that's, I think I probably get it, because I think it's not everybody's cup of tea.
That's right.
Everybody thinks, oh, I can have a boat and I can be an operator, but it's not, you know how you say that everything that glitters is not gold.
That's right.
You know, so everybody thinks, oh my God, they're the operator for the boat cruise and they must be making zillions, and, you know, but...
Best job in the world! That's what they say. You've got the best job in the world. But most of the time I'm sitting in the office. So our summer season that we've just had, I went out on Easter weekend. That's the first time I went out all summer season, and we started at the start of December.
Yeah.
Whale watching last year. My first cruise of the starts, well, our pre-season cruise starts at the end of June, but we start guaranteeing sightings from the middle of June. My first cruise was the start of October, which was near the end of our season, just because we were so busy. So, yeah, unfortunately I don't get to go out and enjoy it as much as... But I get to hear everyone's feedback and, yeah, when they come into the office and tell me how amazing it was, which is great.
So which is the country, the majority of internationals that you get? What's the demographic-wise? Is it Asians, Germans, Europeans?
Well, we get a lot of Kiwis. They're sort of the easiest low-hanging fruit, I guess, for us, because we're just across the Dutch. That's my Kiwi accent. But we get a lot of UK, people from the UK. Yeah. We do get a lot of Germans, Dutch, French is starting to come back again. That really, COVID really got them. We're getting a few more from North America now as well. And we're seeing a few more from Scandinavian countries, which is interesting. Norway, Sweden, Denmark. Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, not so much. Or maybe Southeast, yeah. We do get a few South Koreans in. But, you know, for us, for example, the Chinese market is not huge for us, especially that larger group travelling Chinese market, because, you know, our cruises are a little bit longer than most would prefer.
So what's your average cruise time?
The mornings is about 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours, depends on which cruise you're on. So for a lot of people that can seem like a really long time when they want to go out and see, oh, a whale, tick. Oh, I've still got 3.5 hours to go. You know, I know it's.
Yeah, people have no patience nowadays. I think everybody was. Yeah.
Some don't, yeah. Some do though, you know, and yeah, they're the ones who really embrace the experience and just really enjoy and appreciate and are grateful for what's unfolding in front of them, because you don't get to see this stuff every day. Yeah. I mean, we do. Well, I don't. My crew do. Yeah. My husband does. I get all the happy faces at the end.
In saying of the cruise, the staffing, so I know you hear quite often from a lot of businesses, staffing is the biggest issue. So how do you find, as being a local business, is difficult to get good crew members? I know there's the backpacker market have really shrunk after COVID. We see in every business that we see that, you know, but what do you see in your line of work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So pre-COVID, we definitely had a lot of transient workers coming through, which was great for us. They were qualified in some sort of marine science. They spoke multiple languages, which was great for our international guests, because then they could have all the live commentary translated to them directly in their language at the time, so they weren't missing any of the experience. COVID hit, we lost all that, but we didn't have as many internationals, so it wasn't such a big thing. But we are getting more and more now. So just as an example, in the last month, we haven't advertised for whale watching season, but we've already got our crew, or more than we need, and we haven't had to advertise. It's people coming into the region. So people know that this is the best whale watching, this is the best experience they're going to have, and they want to get on the boats and work on them. So we're at the point now where we don't have to advertise, whereas 3-4 years ago we were having to advertise. The thing is as well, we found the internationals are just, I don't know, the Europeans especially are just really good at hospitality and customer service. Yeah, and I'm going to be a bit controversial saying this, but I think a lot of them are a lot better than Australians are. Yeah.
And I think you see more and more, I think, when you go to hotels and things like that. I know there's nothing wrong about locals or anything, but you see predominantly like hotels are run by a lot by Asians now, Indians and Filipinos and things like that. And when you see a lot of marine stuff and things like that, they're more Europeans and things like that because they love water, they love the service, and nothing against our Australians. I think there's some amazing people in our business, but there, as you say, there's also people who really just don't want to work. They just want to be on TikTok and do things and they're just like, and everybody just want money for free.
Well, definitely society is changing in that way. The other thing with that though is hospitality and tourism, but especially hospitality, and we're basically hospitality on a boat, even though we're in tourism. It's always seen as a bit of a stepping stone in our countries, whereas especially in Europe, it's a career. People make careers out of it and they take pride in what they're doing and they can see themselves going up the ladder in their chosen career. Whereas here it's possibly not as well looked upon as a career.
It's more a part-time entry-level job, just for pocket money. Get the money in. I'm in the uni. Thank you very much. I'm out. And I completely agree. Like I did 15 years of hospitality, managing hotels, resorts. Start from waiter to be a general manager. So so you understand that because for us, hospitality was a profession. You studied. You had diploma degrees to actually run a hotel business or run a tourism operating business, and then you come to Australia and countries like this and you grow up the rank, and then after certain years you say, okay, I think it's time for me to switch to something else. But you're exactly on the point. I think sometimes for locals it can be, it's just a job, I'm going to do something else after this. 3 things that you think that could have done from our region to do better for tourism in this region?
Well, the whale watching and cementing us again as the #1 destination in Australia, we absolutely need to do. We need to be encouraging more of a diversity of tourism product as well. So that is your land-based tourism too, not just your marine tourism. And I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but having options for couples, for families who come into the region, who then will hopefully be supported by locals as well out of tourist season, would be great. We could do with some good quality accommodations as well.
I agree to that too. Yeah.
So we are really lacking one end of the market, that higher end of the market. They're just not many are coming into the region, and that trade show I was at last week in Brisbane, when we meet with the Lux buyers, they're called, our experiences they're not luxe, but they're unique and they're incredible experiences. But unfortunately, we don't really have the accommodation to support that either. And a lot of these people who are high spenders and they'll go out and support local businesses, they want to stay in some really nice accommodations. And we've got some good ones, but we don't have those incredible ones. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you want to attract the big money and that niche market, and they have the money to spend. You have to create that atmosphere for them to come. greater tourism, greater product, greater accommodation, greater good restaurants, and then you will see how that money starts flowing into those market. People say if you have an expensive accommodation, no one's going to come. I think there's a whole different market happy to spend that kind of money if you're getting a good product.
That's it. And when they're here, they go, oh, what can we do while we're here? Well, we'll go whale watching, we'll go to the island, we'll go on a jet ski tour, we'll go for a walk down the esplanade and hire some stand-up paddleboards or kayaks or whatever it may be. Yeah. So there's a lot that we could be doing. And I know Justine Cooper from Fraser Coast Regional Council, who is the executive, I can't remember her title exactly, but she's the executive manager, I think, for tourism and economic development. She has great international experience, especially in that aviation space. So she's doing a lot to attract more of that sort of market to our region, which is great. And she's a great visionary for our region.
Great. Okay.
Love you, Justine. She's Kiwi as well.
Tell us one of the funniest guest experience that you had on the cruise.
Funniest or fun? Because I feel like funniest is sort of laughing at them a little bit, but is this PG?
Yeah.
Is it PG?
No, it is. You can go for it. I usually post it, not for kids.
I'll do the kids' version first. The funniest thing's when they're looking at whales and, they're like, whoa, and then a whale, and one might be right by the boat and it breathes out through its blowhole and it just blows whale snot over everyone. It's actually really horrible, that stuff, and it stinks. But if they'll just say, wow, and get some in their mouth, it's really gross.
Whales can come that close to the boat.
Oh, they do. They come so close you could almost touch them.
Yeah, okay.
Have you not been whale watching before?
I think I've done 4 or 5, but I think every time I went, they were never that close.
Right. It must have been the time of the season. And you didn't come with Whalesong, obviously. No, just kidding.
But I've seen it.
No, but they do often come very close to the boat. Yeah, so close. But we have time. The non-PG version, which is quite funny. We had this real character of a crew. Well, every season we have pretty amazing crew, really. There's always 1 or 2 that are just real characters, though. Just real characters. And 3-4 years ago, we had one guy, his name's Grinner. Grinner, hello, if you're watching. I'll link you into this so you can see this. He ended up skippering for us for a while, but before that, he had to do his time on the deck and learn how to be a deckhand. Anyway, he was out serving morning tea, so we take food around to people so they don't have to get up. They get up for their meals, but for the snacks, we bring it all around to them so they don't have to, it's best service. Anyway, Grinner's up the front, has a tray of fruit, a fruit platter for morning tea. And Doug's driving the boat. It's my husband, Doug. He's driving the boat. Not like this, thankfully, but just so you know, driving the boat. And a whale pops up. And when a whale pops up, you've just got to slam on the brakes. Because sometimes, we go slow out there anyway. To get out there, you go a bit faster. But when you're in the region, you go a bit slower, right? Because they can pop out of nowhere. So he slammed on the brakes and Grinner just fell forwards into a guest's lap, but right into his crotch. And he was just so worried about dropping his plate of fruit. He didn't even think about it. He just went straight down and the fruit platter survived. But the funny thing was that what we had after that as well, we then used that as ammunition to tease Grinner, and we try to have as much fun as possible because sometimes some days can get pretty tough, so we try and make it as fun as possible for our crew as well. And we pretended that the husband's wife, or the guy he fell into, his wife had written a TripAdvisor review about Grinner falling into his crotch. Wow. Yeah. That's a whole other segment, that. It was really funny, the TripAdvisor review. So me being the office person that I am, Whenever we get a bad review, which thankfully isn't too often, I will go and talk with the crew who were on that day just to get their perspective as well. Because, there's always more than one side to every story. Anyway, this is a prank we played on Grinner. And we got him up the top at the back of the boat. And I just went up to him and I said, Grinner, look, I've received this TripAdvisor review. I just want to run it past you first, just to get your perspective on it, just before I respond to it. Anyway, we got him up the back of the boat and he was reading it and he was really worried. He was like, oh my God, what's happened? But then as he went through, as we created the review as a bit of it was a fake review that we created for him. And he said, we got to the end of it and he goes, and it was from the perspective of the wife, and it's like, I just really want to say, we had an amazing time on the boat. I'm cutting this very short. We had an amazing time on the boat. Special thanks to Grinner. He was just extra special with his service. And since his incident with my husband, our love life has reignited. And so as soon as he started reading that, he was just, he had this big bellowing laugh. And because we had him at the top of the back of the boat, it just went through the whole marina. And passengers from other boats are walking down and they're like, what on earth is going on? But I think the thing is, you can have fun with your guests, but it's really important for our team to have fun as well. And it helps with that solidarity and we just try to make the best of what we can. So yeah, that was just a funny example because God, yeah, it was classic. Yeah.
It's absolutely, I think, and that's what make staff to stay back, because it's just not a serious business. Yes, it's a serious business, but you also want to have joke around, fun around, and things like that. Even there's a negative review, but you sending a message, but you also making sure that, hey, it happens, stuff like that. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, that was a fake negative review, but that was you've got to. You've heard of the term cabin fever, right? They're working in such close proximity, and there are days where it's just like this. Generally it's pretty calm and beautiful out there, but there are some days where the boat's just going like this, and there are people vomiting everywhere. And
so you get a lot of people vomiting and everything.
Yeah, and that was another funny story my husband said, is that people often just will go over the side, which is great, but we sometimes have people vomiting from the top, and that gets people down below, which is horrible. But a funny thing that Doug saw was one woman was feeling ill and she grabbed her husband's cap and just vomited, took it off his head and just vomited into that. Shouldn't laugh because it's horrible. There's nothing worse than seasickness. It's terrible, but thankfully it doesn't happen too often.
Okay, describe in 3 words your cruise.
Our cruises. Whalesong Cruises. It's joyful. It's educational. And life-affirming.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Oh God, I gave myself goosebumps saying that. But it is. We get people that get off the boat and say, wow, I did not expect that. Whales often bring people to tears, which you don't always expect as well. But they're so big and so close to the boat. They're the length of our boat, a full-size adult female, just over 16 metres long. So when they see these gentle giants and look into their eyes, and it's a profound experience for a lot of people. Yeah. So.
All right. So we're gonna wrap up the podcast with a rapid fire round. Okay. So it's one-liner.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Whale or dolphin?
Oh, it's hard. It's got to be whales, though. Well, dolphins are so playful and they're so much fun. And it's amazing how kids just love the dolphins instead of the whales. Right. Sorry, that was more than a one-liner. Yeah.
Favorite local coffee spot?
My favourite at the moment is the Baker's Room, the Artisan Bakery in Damon Street. Yep.
One song that describes your job?
One song, Lovely Day by Bill Withers.
Whoa! Would you rather be stuck on a land or at the sea for a day?
That depends on the weather.
What's your go-to snack on the boat?
Well, I am a bit partial to the salt and vinegar Pringles. That's where they've all gone.
Dream celebrity guest that you would love to host on your boat?
Oh, now that was a hard one. Of course, it would be David Attenborough, and he turned 99 yesterday. And how amazing would that be? I mean, never say never, but David, we would love to host you on Whalesong one day. Please come over. But if we can't get you David, then I'll settle for one of the Hemsworths or Matt Damon or, the Hollywood celebrity pool.
Well, thank you very much, Bec. Well, guys, if you watch the podcast right to the end, we thank you so much. And do support our local businesses. The whole idea of the podcast is to bring more people and awareness for our local businesses. And operators like Bec, it takes so much to run a business, especially in a region like Fraser Coast. So do support them. Bec, you want to do a plug for your business?
I think we're...
You're good? Yeah.
Whalesong Cruises. Oh, just so you know, we have won the Marine Tourism Award at the Fraser Coast Business and Tourism Awards for the last 3 years. We're going into the Hall of Fame this year, and we're the only boat to do that in our region. So given that we'd had zero marine tourism experience until we bought the boat just over 7 years ago, we're pretty proud of that.
Perfect. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for the podcast. Thanks, Bec. Thanks for coming. Thank you.